Okay, so what I'm going to go over is I'm going to go over the kind of complexity of how color works in the visual effect editor. And I'm going to kind of go in a reverse order from what I usually do, just to kind of show you why I do certain things in a particular order, or why I go from like texture to particles, then maybe to emitters, then usually I avoid parameters, but I'll just kind of explain why. So starting with the parameters tab, you can think of this tab as kind of like a global setting tab for the visual effects editor. And what you got here is you've got scale, you can scale things up and down, but you've also got revised color. What this does is this kind of just blanket colors everything in the visual effect to a certain amount. And to kind of show you the results, so here's the base visual effect that I'm using. It's Thunder 4. I'm using it for bow shock. I'm gonna make a version of it that's golden. I really don't want the auto to go. So what I'm gonna show you is, say I change this to 5 times its normal amount, which is kind of extreme, but it kind of gets the point across of how extreme, how the global or the parameters tab kind of works. So if I change it to 5, this increases the red here. This one increases the red. I believe this one is green and this one is blue. I'm pretty sure that's the order they're going in. I don't use it a lot. So if I change it to 5, that increases the red across the entire visual effect 5 times. So gives me this kind of like really purpley colored, and as you can see, some visual effects bleed through. You've got some gold there, you've got some kind of purple still bleeding through. So it's kind of like the case of taking like a sledgehammer to a thumbtack. It's really extreme. Things will bleed through. It can be useful for some visual effects, but for the most part, I don't really use this. I usually leave it one across the board. So the next level of complexity is the Emitters tab. So in the Emitters tab, let's start with this. In the Emitters tab, and just to kind of isolate this visual effect, I'm going to disable all the others except for 4. So I'm going to disable 1 as well. So I want to work with emitter 4. And emitter 4 has these 5 particles on it. And here's what emitter 4 looks like. That's that little kind of cylinder model, that right there. So say I wanted to change the color of emitter 4. So I increase the parent influence color to 2, because 2 overwrites, or seems like overwrite the color of the particles on it. So I'm going to change them all to 2. So it's still the same color. Now let's try gold, a little more golden, a little more red. Change that to that. So I got a little more gold on it. As you can see, there's purple bleeding through on some of them. So this kind of like the parameters tab, it kind of just blanket covers all the particles on this emitter. You can do various things like scale the red, green, blue by a certain amount on this. More importantly though, what I usually find more useful on an emitter is the alpha. So this is what I assume A stands for alpha. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the alpha, let's say to a quarter of what it, close to a quarter of what it was, just to kind of show you what the alpha will do to a particle. So it makes them very kind of transparent. This can be useful for doing things like reducing the opacity. I don't know. Pretty much it allows things like a particle to be a little bit more see-through. This is helpful for like trying to be able to still see ground markers or like targeted markers through a visual effect. Particularly ground effects can be very occlusive. So that's very useful for making things a little bit more see-through so that you can see and be more tactical with your visual effects and not make them so obtrusive and difficult to see through. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that because this visual effect is not going to be too see-through. So I've got kind of a golden color in there, but I've also still got purple bleeding through. And I'll get to why that is. So I'm going to go ahead and let's jump to particle, well, let me see, I'll find one of these that has a proper texture on it to kind of show you what I'm looking at. 11, 13, one of these has a thunder particle. Okay, something has texture 7 in it. 9, 15. Let's see here. I think something has texture 7 on it. Let me see. That's texture 1. I'm going to just show you how texture kind of affects visual effect here by showing you the color of how color kind of works on particles as well. If I can find the proper texture or the proper one here. Okay, I know something is using purple. I am only seeing particle 4, right? Yeah, I'm only got emitter 4 active. Well, one way you can kind of find out which particle it is doing a delay test. So I'll insert like a delay sometimes and use this to kind of test what particle is the offending particle here. Okay, so it's particle 14. So let's see here. Like model. Oh, it's blue. That's why I'm confused. Okay. So this has been set to purple here. The texture that is on this particle is a blue texture. It's this blue lightning effect. And so that's going to usually bleed through any changes, or it has to be taken into account with any changes that I do to the particle's color settings. So if I change it to gold, the blue still bleeds through, as you can see. It kind of makes it this like kind of bluish green color. And that's not what I'm going for, really. So anything I do here is going to have the texture's base color come through. That's true for purple, that's true for gold, which is what I'm going for anyways. So if you have a texture that already has the proper color you want, just leave it. But if you have textures that are not the proper color or are interfering with your color, what I've done and what I'm continuing to doing is just finding the file paths for various useful textures. So these are lightning textures. I've got several fires, stone, well, one stone, several water textures. And so I'm going to go into my lightning textures here And I'm going to choose one that works for my purposes. I could probably choose this one, but I'm going to actually choose this white one here. Actually, no, I'm going to choose this one. It has a bit more character, or a bit more complexity to the lightning bolt. So, like, here's the texture that that is currently on there, I believe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come back into my visual effects editor. And so texture 9 was the offending texture. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to change this to the file path that I want it to be. And so here's the texture that I want to use. This is a texture that's already in the game. It's already a part of the game. I try to use these way more than I try to edit a texture, just because they're already in the game. It won't really interfere with anything else. But so that's why I use that, and that's why I try to keep like a running list and try to add to it every now and then when I find a texture that I find useful. So I've changed that texture now. Texture 9 is now, this has no color to it, it's just a white texture. So now, when I change this to gold, kind of a golden color, I'm gonna get more crisp visual effect here. See? It's now golden. It's really golden now. But let's say there's a visual effect, or there's a texture that I couldn't find something that works with, for whatever reason. Let's say this one I couldn't find it, even though I've got plenty that are. If I need to edit a texture, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it of all color. The reason you should only remove color, or just make it black and white, is because these textures get used by a lot of different abilities. And usually on any ability where it's used, the particle is going to add color to it. So removing the color is usually not a big deal. So I'm going to export this as, I believe mine only does, let's see, DDS. And I like to try to export it as the file name. Okay, so I've exported that as DDS. And I'm going to pull up Gimp to just edit the texture and show you how this can also have the same effect. So I'm going to open, let's see here, document, textiles in progress. Okay, so here's what I saved. So here's that same texture. And now what I'm going to do, this is pretty much all I do, is I just go in, desaturate. So now it's black and white. Then export as. I'm going to export it as the same thing. Replace it. Alright, now I come back into the game, and I'm going to replace this. So instead of doing a file path, I'm replacing this visual effect texture at that file path. So here's what I just edited. Alright, now that is white. So that would have the same effect as what I did with texture 9, was replacing it with the black and white version. So that's white now, and let's find a particle that uses it. I believe particle, I want to say 24. Yes, particle 24 uses this one. So let's find an emitter that has particle 24 on it. I'm betting it's going to be one of these later ones. Alright, so emitter 13 has particle 24 on it. So I'm going to go ahead and isolate that one here, just to, show you better without all this clutter and everything. Something's using particle 13, or emitter 13. is that? 8, 9, 15, 16, 17. It's not on these. Okay, there's emitter 13. So I'm going to isolate emitter 15. I'm just disabling them for now, just so that I can show this emitter without everything else. Okay, so there's emitter 13 is a ground effect. Or part of it has a ground effect on it. Oh, I'm sorry. I isolated the wrong one, didn't I? I wanted 15. Ah, there we go. Alright, so emitter 15 has these lightning bolts. So I'm going to go to 24, particle 24, since emitter 13 uses particle 24. And so its color is this kind of orange, white, red, orange again, red, red. I'm going to make these golden as well. So let's do golden. That's gold. It's kind of a goldish color. Just going to do all of these. Alright. Let's see what effect that has. So they're all golden white. And to be honest, I kind of want them... I kind of like that. I kind of like a combination of gold and white there. So that's changed the color there. Some particles also have color beginning, color end. I know certain ones, like a disc, has it. Polylines have several of these settings that control like the color of the outside edge of the polyline, the inside of the polyline, the very inside of the polyline. It can be pretty complex to try to edit polylines. But I'm not here to discuss polylines today. So if you have an emitter or if you have a particle that has, well, let me just show you. So if I had a particle that has like a beginning color, let's do an ending color. So what did this change? Yeah, that made them red. Very red. Say I make it white. Yeah, and adds red. It adds red to like the very beginning of when the particle starts. So usually whenever I have color in there, sometimes I usually make it white, because whenever it's set to white, it usually doesn't affect the color at all. It leaves it the color that I set in the color panel. That just makes life easier overall. I'm not sure why it has that. I'm guessing if you want to like have color changes, but usually you can do that within the color setting anyways. But yeah, so that's how you change. That's where color can be changed in the parameters, the emitters, the particles, and the textures. Texture is honestly probably where I usually start. If I have a texture that I know is going to interfere with color changes that I want to do, I just go ahead and replace it with one that doesn't. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove this one, just because I know I've got textures I can use instead. I'm going to exit this. Come on. I don't want to use this. Discard changes. So I'm going to use one that I know already will work. I use this. So I'm just going to replace this. There. Yeah. It's not as thick, but honestly I like that. I like that more. So yeah, that's how you edit colors. And if you want to stick around, you can. I know it's patch day. I'm gonna go ahead and start and just work on this. You can watch me work on the various particles in this visual effect that I'm working on right now if you want. But that's pretty much everything to do with color as far as the visual effects editor goes. So I don't always change color. Like here, this is blue. That's fine. It's not gonna really interfere with much of anything. Oh, it'd help if I turn the, actually enabled them again. Alright, so I'm gonna start here, and I'm going to go through the textures, check for any that would be difficult to work with. Things like red and orange is usually not difficult to work with when I'm trying to change it to gold or yellow. Come back in here, insert this. Okay, I can work with all these textures. Let's see. What is this part of? Alright, I want this to be golden as well. Red's not so bad. If it's purple, I'm definitely gonna have to change it. I usually don't like a lot of randomness. It's not too bad. Light model. Definitely don't want any blue in there. Because blue mixed with any yellow or white is gonna make it kind of bluish or greenish, and I don't want that. There's purple to gold. Double check these. Number 5. Oh wow, that's a lot of purple. Let's change these all to gold. Kind of a golden color. I'm not trying to get exactly, you know, the same color across the board. One of the things you'll learn is imperfection is kind of what makes things seem more real. Doesn't make it seem like ridiculously fake, I guess is the idea. A little bit of imperfection in there is not terrible. And double check these. Okay, that's all good. Double check these going in. Make this more golden. I'm fine with a little bit of red and a little bit of green. That's probably not going to make a big difference. 0.2 variation, because when you have random, that's going to make it a random amount across, you know, for that duration. So 0.2 is not a huge variation. And when you're looking at random, that's random on top of what the color is set as. That's not random like, oh, it's going to be a random amount, or no, that's in addition to what you set the color as. So make these golden too. And like this visual effect, I like the form of it. I really, well, yeah, it's Thunder 4. It looks really cool. Black mages are very lucky and have some of the flashiest, best visual effects. That's why it was fun to edit them for Abyssal Mage. Yeah, like windmill doesn't have the colors or the color and data. It's getting there. Uh, 12. Still got some purple in there, but I'm getting rid of it slowly. So as you can see, this is why I start with the textures and then I work into the particles. Editing the particles may be a bit more tedious, but it usually has, I think, a better effect as opposed to trying to edit the emitters or the parameters tab. Like I said, I'm not trying to get the exact same color across the board. I just want kind of in the general ballpark of kind of golden lightning, because that's what I'm going to try to make the color theme for Spellblade's lightning effects, just to kind of set it apart from other things that I've done. You know, like Forgiven Reaper had all kind of white and black, or kind of yellow, a little bit of yellow in there, but not much. This is going to be gold kind of across the board. And like, what was it, Abyssal Mage, I made the lightning all red. I like this. I like gold. It was fun. I really liked it when I made, for a Dromalex Colors, made his lightning gold. And so I knew I was going to use that for this as well. And just want to get this done before maintenance hits. Just to get one more visual effect finished for Spellblade. These, you'll find several particles with just multiple color changes in its timeline, and they can be tedious to kind of work with, but I'd like to try to kind of keep the same concept for this, just because I like Thunder Force so much. And double check these again. I can live with gold on there. Make sure this is the same. Okay. 20. And change these. I'm fine with white too. White is a nice complement to gold. Black can be very nice to use as well. Really helps contrast a brighter color, like when I did Forgiven Reaper. Leaving black shadow in there is very nice. 23 is good. 24 is good. 5. Go back and double check the data tab whenever I'm finished with the color tabs here. I don't want any purple left in this visual effect. Oops, there we go. I'm pretty sure nothing had data. And I did check the others. Alright. So those have all been edited. There. I've got kind of gold and white. Do a oh, I need to change the binder. I just want it to be caster. And do this again. So there is the new bow shot. Alright, well,